Hello, 8th graders. Your video for the next section, which is 4.2, is on graphing linear functions. And to be able to do this, you need to understand what the y-intercept is. I talked about this a little bit in the last section. It's just the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. And remember that the y-axis is this one. So if I have a point right there, that's where it crosses the y-axis. I'm going to put a line on here and then we're going to talk about it. So this line right here that I just graphed, it crosses the y-axis, which is this one, right? This is the x, this is the y. So it crosses it at 2, positive 2. So just like I talked about a little bit yesterday, you can use the slope and the intercept to write an equation for a line, and it would be called slope-intercept form. And it's written in the form y equals mx plus b. And you're probably looking at that going, what? I don't get it, mx plus b. But here's the deal. We've already written them like this. We just haven't called it this, okay? So m, let me change to my pen here. M is slope, and the b is the intercept, okay? So m is slope, and b is intercept. So on this one right here, see what I wrote here? The slope-intercept equation of the line graphed above, so this line, the slope-intercept equation is y equals, the y equals is always there. It's just how you write it. Y equals negative 1x. Negative 1 is the slope. How did we get that? Look up here. Start at the left. You go down 2. So you'd be going down 2 and over 2. And so the slope is negative 1, which is what it says right here. Where did I get the plus 2? All that means is where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses at 2. So y equals negative 1x plus 2. Negative 1 is the slope. 2 is where it crosses, right here. It's exactly kind of what we went over yesterday. So then linear functions. We talked about linear equations in the last chapter. A linear function is the same concept. It's just a function that has points that lie in a straight line. Linear means when you graph it, it's going to look straight. It's the same thing with functions. So then, here's my first example. So if I want to find the slope and the y-intercept of this line right here, this function, y equals 2x minus 2. If you just very simply remember where the slope is always located, the slope is always in front of the x. Okay? Because if you remember what I just said, the equation was y equals mx plus b. The m is always the slope, and the slope is always right here in front of the x. So what is my slope for this equation? My slope is 2. And what is my b? What is my intercept? The intercept is always right here. If it says plus in the equation, it'd be a positive. If it says minus, it'd be a negative. So this one says minus 2. That means it's at minus 2. And now I can go ahead and graph that line just knowing those two things. We did a couple of these yesterday. So just knowing that the slope is this and the intercept is this, I could go ahead and plot it on my graph. So my intercept is negative 2, so it's going to cross my y-axis at negative 2. And if I use the slope, 2 means 2 over 1. So that means I go up 2 and over 1. And there is that line, this function on a graph. All I need to know is what is the y-intercept, where does it cross this axis, and what the slope is. And then I can find my other point and draw my line for the graph. So then one special rule we can look at is if an equation does not have a y-intercept listed, it has to cross the y-axis at 0, 0 then, because the only reason you wouldn't write plus or minus after this 4x is if it was 0. Okay, so I can graph this just by knowing that. So there is no plus or minus, so you know it crosses at the axis, or at the origin right there. And I know that my slope is 4 because it's in front of the x, and that's always where the slope is. So I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1, and there is the graph for that one. Something you need to remember, that little rule. If it doesn't say anything after the x, it's got to be crossing the y-intercept at 0. So then that equation y equals 4x, there is another way you could do it. You could also just make a table of solutions and then graph it. So using this equation right here. So if I made my little xy table here, so if I plug 0 in, it would be 0. If I plug 1 in, it would be 4, right? 4 times 1. 4 times 2 would be 8. So I could use that, and you can see that this point and this point are these two. And so it's going to end up the exact same anyway. But if you don't understand why there's nothing there, you can just plug numbers in and graph it that way. You would get the exact same answer. Okay, so bring that information with you, and we will talk about it tomorrow. Have a good night.